This lesson is about the Tamyiiz construction in Arabic. The Tamyiiz construction is sometimes called the accusative of specification. It is another Arabic adverbial construction that is based on the idea that it's nice to say something general, usually very general, and then specify the realm in which that general statement applies. We've already seen this strategy with the false idafa construction, where instead of saying that the girl's face is pretty, we can say the girl is pretty of face, with the second term of the idafa specifying the realm that the adjective applies to. Tamyiiz is similar to false idafa, but even more general. The idea is that you say something general, almost anything at all, and then you say any noun in the indefinite accusative, and that noun specifies the realm in which your general statement applies. It is common to translate a Tamyiiz construction with a wise suffix, as in, that girl is pretty, hair-wise. So in false idafa you would say, al-bint jamila to sha'r, with the specifying construction being the second term of the idafa. However, in Tamyiiz you say al-bint jamila, the girl is beautiful, sha'ran, hair-wise. I've given you a couple of other fairly common examples. The first one is huwa akbar minni sinnan. He's bigger than me, age-wise. But I, ana akbar minhu, hajman. I am bigger than him, size-wise. So he may be older, but I am larger. Unlike the accusative of purpose, which in many ways it looks similar to this construction, the Tamyiiz can be any noun, as in sha'ran, while the accusative of purpose is always a verbal noun. But the Tamyiiz, of course, can be a verbal noun. It just doesn't have to be. And so I've given you two examples here where it is a verbal noun. Al-ustadh akthar minni, the professor is more than me, ihtimaman bis-siyasa, as far as interest in politics goes. And Saudiya akbar dawla fil alam, meaning Saudi Arabia is the biggest country in the world, intajan lil batrol. Now in these two constructions, notice since you are using a verbal noun, that verbal noun can take its complements. And so in the case of ihtimam, ihtamma takes a be, so ihtimaman takes the be also, bisiyasa. Whereas antaja doesn't take a preposition before its object, it just takes a direct object. So since you want this to be indefinite accusative, it can't be idafa. You need to put a li on the front of the thing that is the notional direct object of that verbal noun. That's actually a little similar to cognate accusative. So if you're just using a regular noun, there's not going to be these extra words as part of the construction. But if you're using a verbal noun, of course, you can always take the complements of the verbal noun. Although the Tamyiiz is quite a general construction that can take a lot of forms, in actual usage, you will find that it is mainly used in two contexts. The first of these is an elative context. In other words, when you're saying either more or most. This is because it is possible to form real elatives like akbar from kabir with only a very few general adjectives. You cannot form such elatives from most active or passive participles, for example. So when you want to say more productive, as we saw in the Saudiya sentence, there isn't a way to form an elative of that word productive, and so you say akbar dawla fil alam, intajan, as far as production goes, because it's easy to form a verbal noun from those verbal constructs, but not easy to form an elative from the active participle. So the same thing will apply to more cooperative, for example. Muta'awin is an active participle, means cooperative, but there's just no way to form an elative from that. So if you want to say more cooperative, you say akthar ta'awunan. The same thing with organized. Munazzam would be organized. It's a passive participle, but you can't really form an elative from that passive participle. So if you want to say that it's more organized, you're going to have to say something with this construction, akthar tanziman. Now there are certain very, very common ways that Tamyiiz is used with this elative construction, so I've given you a list of them here. These are ones that you're going to see all the time. So for instance, huwa akbaruhum, he is bigger than them, sinnan, age-wise. And skipping down one, we see a very similar construction, huwa akbaruhum umran, which also means age-wise. The second one says, huwa akbar minhum ilman. So he is more than them knowledge-wise, meaning he's more knowledgeable than they are. Huwa asghar nas, he's the smallest of the people, shatnan. Shatn here means matter, but it kind of refers to how important a person is, how much he matters in the world. And so this person that they're talking about matters least of all in the world. And this product is aqal minhu, less than the other one, qimatan, as far as value goes. So value-wise, it's less. There are a few more. Something is aqal minha khuturatan. It is less dangerous than the other thing. This one is akthar minhu irtifa'an. This is common in economics articles about prices. So this one is more elevated than the other one. This is aqal tamasukan. Tamasuk is hanging together, so it's less coherent, you might say. And aqal ta'qidan, which means something like less complex. In almost all these cases, you'd have trouble finding a real elative, a real more or most adjective that would express it as well as the Tamyiiz expresses it. So here are two sentences from the corpus which just use this construction naturally, and I thought you would enjoy them. Al-azwaj al-mudakhinun, so smoking husbands who smoke are aqal hubban wa injaban. They're less loving and they're less producing of children. In other words, they're less fertile. And so smoking, it's just, they're using tamyiz to show what smoking does to husbands. And the second one is in a religious context. It says, Kana Rasul, the Prophet was ahsan an-nas. He was the best of all people, khalqan, which means something like morals-wise. The other common construction where you're going to find a lot of tamyiz is with the numbers 11 through 99. You have probably learned that when you have a number 11 through 99 with a noun, that noun must be singular, not plural, and then also indefinite and accusative. What you may not have learned is that this is because these numbers always take the tamyiz construction. So if you have always thought it illogical that Arabs say 15 book instead of 15 books, you can now realize that they aren't actually saying 15 book. They are saying 15 as far as books go, or something like 15 book-wise. And so if you'll just remember that 11 through 99 takes tamyiz, it'll be a lot easier to remember how the numbers work. So I've given you three examples here. The first is 15, khamsata ashara kitaban, okay, singular indefinite accusative. Thalath wa ishruna talibatan, so 23 female students, and thamaniya wa tis'una, which is 98 taliban, male students. On these last three slides, I've given you some sentences from the corpus that are relatively more complicated than what we've seen, but again are just using tamyiz in a natural way. I'm not going to translate the sentences perfectly. If you want to stop the video and figure some of them out, you can, but I'll just explain each one quickly. So the first one is, again, in a religious context, where someone is addressing Amir al-Mu'mineen, the prince of the faithful, meaning the caliph, and he says, you've forgiven or pardoned someone who is more than me. Adam minni jurman. Okay? He's more than me criminal-wise. And so I may have done something bad, but that guy did something even worse, and you pardoned him. And the next one is talking about China, and the tamyiz is in kind of a parenthesis. So it says, China, the biggest country in the world as far as size goes in population growth, and then it says expects this decrease. And so here it says, As-Sin wa hiya akbar ad-duwal hajman fi an-numu sukani. So the biggest of the countries size-wise in population growth. The last one is talking about a rally that's held, I think, every year in Qatar, and it says, Huwa min ahsan ar-raliyat tanziman fil mintaqa. It's the best of the rallies organization-wise. In other words, it's the most organized, the least you know, unorganized, I guess you would say, in the region. And the last sentence on this page is saying that people aren't going to be able to agree on common interests, even in the best of circumstances. Ahsan al-dhuruf. Now that's just a plain elative construction. But even in akthariha, the most of these circumstances, mula'imatan. Okay? So even in the most appropriate circumstances for agreeing on common interests, they're not going to be able to do it. So it's kind of a negative, pessimistic sentence. Okay, the first sentence on this slide is that Iraq has become less cooperative after a particular Security Council decision was passed. So it's asbaha aqal ta'awunan. It became less cooperation-wise. Okay? And so the next sentence says the problems of this path are less su'ubatan wa taqidan. Aqal su'ubatan wa taqidan compared to the Palestinian path. We have a less difficult and less complicated path than the Palestinians. The next one is from a novel. The person they're talking about is a Westerner called Cynthia. And it says, Cynthia badat aqal radikaliyatan min Nabil. So Cynthia appeared to be less radical than Nabil was. Okay? And the last sentence on this slide is talking about an author who was very active early in life, but then later on became less active. And so it says something about how the years that followed in the 70s, ja'alathu made him aqal harakatan wuzuhuran, so less active and less in the public eye, less apparent. And this last one is a fun one for you to figure out on your own. Just to give you the idea, is talking to someone who's thinking that the sentences written on greeting cards don't really express what we want to say. And so he's saying we should have a greeting card that says something like, we wish you a new year that won't be as bad as the previous one. In other words, he wants to be more practical and not so hopeful when you know it's not going to be that great. But then he's saying, okay, maybe more poetically we could say it this way. And so the idea is, he says, أو عبارة ربما كانت أكثر, okay, شعرية وأقل قسوة. And so in an expression here, in an expression that might be more poetic and less harsh, even if it's less realistic, and then he gives another possible thing that you could write on a greeting card. I thought you might enjoy that sentence. The point here is that Tamyiiz is really common. It's important to recognize it. Once you recognize it as Tamyiiz, it's not hard at all to understand, but it's the recognizing that's important.